Hi, Georgie. Thank you so much for joining me on the Mary-Jess Meets podcast. How are you doing this fine morning?
I'm really well, thank you. I'm just sat in Jersey in my conservatory. This is my parents' house that I'm staying at the moment. Me and my boyfriend had just moved in together in Warwick Avenue, literally for like 4 days. So he comes from Jersey and he'd flown over from Jersey with all his stuff. We'd moved into Warwick Avenue, into our new flat, and literally 3 days later, I said, you know what, I think this was before England went on lockdown. And I was like, I just feel like it's going to get really bad. You know, when it was kind of like we didn't really know what was going to happen. I was like, I think we should go back to Jersey and kind of be with our family because we don't know how long it's going to be for, and travel and things like that. So we came back here. So me and my partner are currently staying at my mum and dad's house along with my brother. I mean, this hasn't happened in like 10 years. Like I left home, oh God, no, longer than that. I left home when I was 16.
Wow.
So I'm turning 30 next week.
Exciting!
Yeah, exciting, but scary. Oh, I'm just like, have I achieved everything I needed to by 30? Wouldn't I have had my stuff more together than I do now? But anyway, so yeah.
Honestly, don't talk to me about that. I just turned 30 at the end of March, so I've been there. I've experienced the angst. And the anxiety and the lockdown birthday as well.
Do you know what? I think it's. Yeah, I kind of feel like the lead up to it will be a lot worse, like once you're over it, because it's like everything gets thrown into question, doesn't it? It's just like, am I where I want to be? Like, am I who I want to be? Am I living by the, I don't know, values? Am I living by the values that I kind of set myself years ago? Am I living my best life? Am I living to my full potential? All these things, all these really stressful, like I'm definitely a perfectionist and put a lot of pressure on myself. Like I'm type A personality. So I've got like all this pressure on myself. Like, am I where I want to be? But obviously no one's probably where they want to be in a global pandemic. So yeah, I think the kind of lead up to it is more scary than the over when you're over. What do you think? Did you feel better once you turned 30?
Didn't feel any different at all.
Really?
Not in the slightest. I wonder if that's because I didn't get the chance to celebrate it in the way that I wanted to, because I'd planned a big family birthday party in my garden and then obviously wasn't able to do that because we were on lockdown by then. So I did joke about just staying 29 and then just waiting until I could celebrate my birthday to then turn 30 just so I could stay 29 just a little bit longer. But
100%.
It was really lovely, actually. I got a message from Ema saying, so Irish soprano Ema Barry, saying happy birthday,
I know
to the best years of your life. And that made me feel really positive about it. And I thought about it and I thought, well, as a singer and as a soprano, my voice won't actually be fully mature for another few years. So seeing as your voice starts to mature in your late 20s, early 30s, I'm still in that curve, which makes me feel quite excited, because then I'm thinking, well, maybe she's right, because if my voice is still maturing, maybe the best of my vocal years is yet to come, and that's exciting. I feel actually really excited
100%.
about that. So that makes me feel a lot more.
Yeah, 100%.
Being in my 30s.
Yeah, 100%. And I think taking all the lessons that you've learned in your 20s, especially as a performer as well, like that kind of wisdom that hopefully we'll be getting, that we'll be able to take into our 30s, will hopefully shine through in our performances and our connection to music and everything, because we are just that little bit more wiser, aren't we? And your 20s are just those years for exploring like who you are. I know I've definitely been about 3 or 4 versions of myself in my 20s. So yeah, it's really interesting, like to kind of like think about what the next kind of couple of years are going to hold and where that's going to take us, and not who we're going to be, but who we're going to kind of, I guess you get more grounded, don't you? And you kind of sit into who you are supposed to be and who you really are. And yeah, so it is really exciting. It's just also scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you didn't manage to celebrate. Did you do like a house party thing or anything?
Not really. I had various phone calls throughout the day, you know, constantly on the phone to family that I would have been seeing. And Rich had organised some experiences. I still don't know what they are, so I still get to have my birthday party in that way later on as well. So I'm looking forward to those. But Rich made it really special for me. He made me a cake. And it was absolutely amazing. But it was funny because it felt a bit like a wartime cake because we can't find flour anywhere. There is no flour anywhere. It's like, it's not just toilet paper
Really?
that's stockpiled. Like, we can't find any flour anywhere. So he had to get a cake mix that already had the flour in order to make the cake. And so it actually turned out really well. It was really, really good. It was absolutely amazing. Yeah, it hasn't helped my lockdown body quite so much, eating so much cake recently. But it made me feel better, and that was really nice. And then he made fresh scones as well, so I could have a proper cream tea on my birthday. Amazing. He really made it really special, and cooked lovely food for me, and that made me very happy because they say a way to a man's heart is through his stomach. It's also true for me. Bring me chocolate, sweet things, any kind of food. I'm so happy.
Me.
Yeah.
100% for me. Or bring me a cup of tea with honey. Cup of tea with honey, and like, do you ever have those naked bars? Do you know what they are?
Yes, and I'm so glad.
They're like my thing. I just love them so much.
Cup of tea with honey. I do that too. Yeah,
I do that too.
So nice.
Like 3 or 4 a day. It does make it so just like addicted to the honey. It does make it so delicious, but I do drink a lot of it. I think I have a lot of honey, but then I don't really have much else refined sugar, because being vegan, you kind of don't, like, you know, if you get like chocolate bars that are vegan, they tend to be relatively healthy. They're like coconut sugar or honey or maple syrup and things like that. So yes, I don't actually have that much refined sugar. So I'm like, maybe the tea and honey is okay. Maybe I'm not like overdosing on sugar.
See,
plus it's just so delicious. It's just my vice.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's another reason why I need to transition from vegetarianism to full veganism, because I am eating a lot of chocolate and cake, and it's just not good for you.
Yum.
So, if I could move over a bit further, I'd be a lot healthier. I really would. I mean, at least I've cut out a lot of the, you know, by being vegetarian, you're not having the horrible meat stuff. Like, I never used to like sausages when I used to eat those, because like, I'm sure they only had 2% pork in them anyway, those really cheap ones.
Yeah.
Ugh, no, I hated them.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah, at least like we've cut out that from our diets to make us a little bit healthier during this time. But yeah, no, chocolate, sweet things, that's my vice, because obviously being a singer, I don't smoke, I don't drink or anything like that, being a classical singer. So honey and my tea and sweet things is my, that's my downfall, really. A nice chocolate brownie.
100%. Yum. So if you do go vegan, Deliciously Ella, who's she's called Ella May, and she runs her own podcast, and she has delis, if you like, in Bond Street, and I think it's just in London actually, but you're up in, is it Gloucester?
Originally,
is that where you're living?
I'm in Taunton now. I'm in Somerset. But I do go to London quite a lot. You know, being a musician, that tends to be where you have to go for stuff.
Okay, well, next time you're in London, I need to take you to, it's called, so the cafe's called Deliciously Ella, and she does this like sweet potato brownie, and it's like, you just have to stop. You just cut, it's so unbelievably good. You just can't do anything else. It's like, it's mind-blowingly good. Mind-blowing. Wow. I did the marathon 3 years ago now.
Wow,
so
amazing.
I ran my 26 miles. So ran my 26 miles, and my cousins came to pick me up. And they pick me up, and usually at the end of the marathon, everyone pretty much collapses. Like, if you stop, you kind of collapse because your body's in so much cramp and there's so much tension. So I just kind of like kept walking on the spot and everything. And then I said to them, do you know what I really want to do? Because they said, what do you want to do? Obviously, you've just completed the marathon. I said, I need a Deliciously Ella brownie. And they went, right, okay, well, that's about a 3.5 mile walk. Are you sure? And I went, yes. So I basically hobbled, like, couldn't get downstairs, couldn't go and use a tube or anything. Hobbled 3.5 miles for what, an hour 10, an hour and a half to go and get this brownie. Yeah, I'm serious, to go and get this brownie, and sat down and had this brownie. Just didn't speak. They just didn't speak to me. And I just like had this brownie, and it was just the best moment of my life. For the last 5 miles of the marathon, that's all I was thinking about. I was like, this brownie, you can have this brownie. So yes, they're that good.
Wow.
So
well, I'll tell you what, you are really selling the brownie to me, but you are not selling the marathon the slightest.
It's really like, it's interesting, like doing a marathon, thinking about the amount of mental strength that it took and whether I could do it now. Like, it's just because I went on, obviously you can like, you get your 2 hours time a day, don't you? And some of that has to be to go and get food or whatever. So I went on a 5K run. Have you seen everyone's tagging people in these run 5K, donate 5K?
Oh,
Have
yeah,
you seen that at the moment on Instagram? Yeah. So you kind of like run 5K, donate 5K to the NHS. So I ran a 5K or whatever. And then at the end of it, I was like, how did I do 40K? How did I do this times 8? Like, wow. It's just one of those things. But when you're determined and when you're in the zone, you just do it. It's just kind of like black and white. So once you start running, you just go, right, I'm going to run for 26 miles, whatever it is, 26.4 or 24, I don't know, something like that, a lot of miles. And I'm just going to do it. And you have to kind of like, your brain has to go, right, you cannot say no, you just have to do it. So you just have to push through the pain barrier, you just have to do it. And you just can't stop. And it was like quite simple and weirdly quite easy, because there just wasn't a choice. You just had to do it. And it really kind of taught me some lessons about life. Like, you know, if you kind of put your mind to something and it's not an option to fail, you can literally achieve anything. Like, I was never a runner growing up. I started running when I was 19, and I started with about 3 minutes, and it like kind of hurt my throat a bit. You know, you kind of get that lactic thing and I didn't like it. Stopped 3 minutes, walked back home. The next time, you know, ran 6 minutes, walked back home, then ran 15, and then ran half an hour. And then it just kind of like built up from there. But I was never a runner at school. I kind of like used to hate sports. On sports day, I used to, you know, the little gun thing would go off, and I would basically just wait for the last person. So the person that was struggling the most, and just walk alongside with them. I didn't want to run. I didn't want to compete. Yeah. And I didn't want them to feel bad for like going over the finish line to be a loser. So I literally just used to wait and like walk with the person that was struggling. I would never,
so
Mum
nice.
and Dad were like, Mum and Dad would be like, what is she doing? Like, just would not, for love nor money, would not compete, just didn't want to. So I was never particularly sporty as a child at all. So it was like kind of interesting to be able to then run a marathon. You just, honestly, anyone can do it. You can literally do anything that you put your mind to. And that was like a really interesting, fun lesson that it taught me. You know, you're way stronger than you think you are. Your mind is so strong, can do anything. So yeah, I kind of need to keep reminding myself that, because you kind of forget that lesson, don't you? And, you know, as you go on and you're filled with like self-doubt and all these things, and you just need to remind yourself you can do anything. So yes, that's my marathon and my brownie story.
Yeah. That's so brilliant. I do agree with you. I think the mind is a lot stronger than people give it credit for. But I decided that I was going to run a half marathon, so it's nowhere near like running a full marathon. But I thought I'd set myself still what? Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's still brilliant. Like if it's like 2 hours running ish, if you're doing 10K in an hour, still amazing. So good. That's a lot of running, you know.
It's funny though, because the way I did do it, and the way you're describing your marathon experience is a lot more positive than I would describe my half marathon. Because I was a bit different to you. I was a sprinter at school. So I was in the athletics team, and I was their 100-meter sprinter. So cool. That's what I like. That's what my body is built for. I'm quite a small person, but I'm quite strong. And so I train weights in the gym and that kind of thing. But it means that I've never really been one for endurance stuff. But I thought, even though my body doesn't really lend itself to that, I'll set myself that challenge, because I think it's good to have a challenge and a goal. The trouble is that just before the half marathon, I was on tour with G4 in their tour bus. So being able to go for long runs and then have a shower afterwards wasn't that easy. So Ben Thapper very kindly came out on runs with me, because he's done tons of marathons, and he's helping me, trying to give me some pointers. But the longest run I think I did on tour, just because of the time that we had and if showers were available at the venue and, you know, that kind of thing, I think I did 6K. That's probably about it. So it was nowhere near actually what I needed to do. So then when I got home after the tour, I had about a week So as soon as I got home, I did 10 miles. And after that, I was, what have I got myself in for? I was not looking forward to it. And I couldn't walk properly for days afterwards. I was just like on the stairs on my bottom, trying to go down, couldn't walk down the stairs. I felt really proud of myself though, because just before, a mile before the end, Rich saw me and waved, and he came up and jogged alongside me, and he said, did you know you've got just, I think it was 10 minutes left, and then you could do it in under 2 hours, which was what I was really hoping. So at the end, I was already so knackered, so tired, everything was hurting, but I really tried to knuckle down for that last mile to make sure I did it in under 2 hours, and I did, and that felt amazing. But I didn't find it easy. I really struggled the whole way through, and I had to give myself so many pep talks and just try and keep going. I really struggled, and I think you're right. I think no matter how you find that experience, when you've set yourself a goal and you achieve that and you've done it, it does make you feel amazing, and you do realize how strong your mind is. But I think because we've both experienced the same outcome, I don't think it matters really how your experience is going through it once you've achieved that. So for you, it was quite a positive experience, even though it was difficult. For me, I hated it. I hated it. But I did it, so that made me feel good as well. Does that make sense?
100%. Although saying that, I mean, it was a positive experience in that I can reflect now, but honestly, at the time, it wasn't that positive. I was in so much pain because I was running quite fast. I say quite fast, not quite fast, but I was going to do it in sub 4 hours. And so I was going for like 3 hours 40 minutes.
Oh my gosh,
so I was training quite fast.
3 hours and 40 minutes.
Well, that's what I was going for, but that's definitely not what I achieved. But I guess it's quite similar to under 2 hours, right? So it's similar-ish like running speed. But I was running for a charity. And it was kind of a mental health charity, and they didn't really ask me. So I'd kind of got this place because I was raising money for them and raising a lot of money for them and everything brilliant. And they didn't really ask me what my time was or how quick at running I was or anything like that. So I didn't really know that you had to kind of be put in categories of how fast you might be. So anyway, they put me in the last one. So I think there was like 8 groups in front of me. And you can imagine like the gun goes off or whatever, and it takes like 10 minutes before people can even move. So I was basically, for the first 2 hours, so for the first half marathon, I guess, to London Bridge, I was essentially like basically running on the spot. Like I was so slow because you couldn't get round because everyone was like sardines. And I mean, you could not even weave your way through.
Wow.
So my body went into like total cramp because it was not used to running that slow. And that impact was so different for me. And I mean like total cramp, like it was so painful. So I was like, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And there was one point in the marathon where I was so like thirsty and tired, and someone had got that everyone was handing out sweets, but I don't have sweets because they might have gelatin in. So like obviously vegan and stuff. So I don't really touch them. And there was an orange, and there was like one segment of an orange left. And I was like, oh my God. So I was like, thank you so much. So I had this segment of the orange, and I was like, thank you. This is such a blessing. Thank you. And my hands were shaking that much that it fell onto the floor. Literally like mile 19. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it fell, and I was like, I was like, Georgie, just don't think about it because you're going to cry. Don't think about it. Just carry on running. And I rang my mum at like mile 20, 21. So for the last section of it. And I was like, hi mum. And she was like, oh my God, you're still doing the marathon. So she works at the hospital. So she was like on a whatever lunch break, whatever. And
hang on, she works at the hospital. She's working at the hospital now during all of this.
Yes, she's in main theatre, but she's a sister at the hospital. So it's pretty crazy.
What a hero! Thank you so much to your mum.
I know, she is such a hero, and for the first time in like her life. So she's a sister. So she's basically like I guess you wouldn't call it the manager, but she has like nurses that she manages, I guess. And for the first time in like 30 years, because there's such a you know, it's like such an interesting time where they're getting so many cases and everything. She's having to work nights, so like 4 nights a week, but 12-hour shifts. So it's like from 8 at night until like 8:30 in the morning and everything. So it's, yeah,
Wow.
she's such a trooper though. She's just like powering on, and she's fine. And because I'm obviously like so worried. I mean, everyone's worried about their loved ones 100%. So, you know, it's all relative, isn't it? But because there, you know, there's something called like viral overload, apparently, that if you're exposed to this virus more than once, apparently you can get it quite severe.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and it's hard to know kind of what you're reading, because everything's coming out at different times, and everything, you're not really sure whether that's the correct information anymore. Everything's kind of being updated, isn't it? But I kind of have a feeling that because people have been contracting it more than once, haven't they? So I wonder whether it's just different strains of the virus that people can pick up. So you can almost pick up, like, rather than picking up just the flu, you can almost pick up a cold, a flu, and something else. Do you know what I mean? I wonder whether it's just different strains. So I'm definitely like worried about her. But in Jersey, they have good PPE equipment, so they've not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somewhere's got it right.
I know. So they've not run out of that yet. But I just feel so, like, really feel for people that are working in the NHS in England and don't have that equipment, and are literally, oh God, it just doesn't bear thinking about. And, you know, like, they're exposing themselves to the virus, and then they're exposing their family, and then they're parting from their families. And it's a crazy time, isn't it? Like, who would have thought before this year that this would have, even when it first began, like, no one thought it was going to be this bad. I know on Facebook everyone was going, it's just the flu, it's just the flu, it's just the flu. And whilst it might be that, it just seems to be really badly affecting, you know, that kind of category, that kind of demographic, like, but also healthy people too. And you just don't, it's like the silent assassin. You just do not know how you're going to react to it.
Yeah.
And so it's scary, isn't it? Like,
really scary. I can't imagine how you're feeling, and honestly, I so admire your mum. That's absolutely amazing. I just hope that she stays safe. I really do. But yeah, thank you very much to her for all of her hard work and for being such a trooper. And going on nights must be really difficult as well, because that completely screws with your body clock and everything, doesn't it?
I mean, and you'll know that. So she said to me that she was going on nights, and I was like, do you know what? It's okay, because we've done with Ida Girls London, and we do so many flights a year. Like, one year we had 26 contracts abroad. Wow. Oh no, 28 contracts abroad. I mean, you can imagine. And we went to Australia that year. I think it was 3 times, New Zealand once. So and South America, God knows how many times. Those long haul flights. I think I was just in a constant state of jet lag. So I said to my mum, you know, when I was getting up at like 2 a.m. to go and catch a 6 a.m. flight or whatever, you do just do it, and your body does get used to it, and you're much stronger than you think. You do just get used to it. I guess it's like when you have a baby as well, when you're all of a sudden like really sleep deprived, and you're so scared about it, but when it actually happens, it's okay. I mean, I'm saying this like I've had a baby. I've not had a baby.
I was just about to say, I don't know about that, because I haven't had
a secret baby that I bring to all the Ida gigs. No, I've not got a baby. But it just kind of reminds me of that kind of thing, you know. But I guess we're like ish used to sleep deprivation, because I mean, how many contracts do you do abroad a year? Does it vary?
It really varies. It depends on what recording projects I've got in and that kind of thing. I really want to get onto Ida, but I'm very much aware that I completely interrupted your story about your marathon. You said that you called your mum towards the end.
Yeah, we spoke about the rest of it. So I basically called mum at like mile 21, and I was like, hi mum. She was like, oh my God, you're doing the marathon now? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm just in so much pain. I was like, can you just talk to me about, you know, like anything that's going on? And she was like, well, your brother went on a date on Friday night, and we think she's a keeper. We really like her, and he really likes her too. And I was like, oh my God, tell me more.
Nice bit of gossip. My brother,
and I was like, oh, you're kidding? Like, what's her name? Like, what did she do? Oh wow, that's really cool. Like, so I was like really like animated on this phone. Everyone's kind of looking at me, like thinking I'm talking to myself. Anyway, my brother's still with his girlfriend 3 years later. Sweet. So
Yay!
Yeah. So I'll catch you up. But yeah, that was just end of my marathon story.
That's really lovely. That is really nice. It's nice to hear stories like that, and it's nice that that kept you going in those last few miles as well. Gosh, you need something to keep you going. A nice phone call with your mum and a nice chocolate brownie to look forward to. That's brilliant.
And a piece of orange if you didn't drop it
on the floor. Yeah. Oh, I feel so sorry for you with that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, when I finished
so sad.
the half marathon, they were handing out bananas. I think that's the best tasted banana I've ever had in my life. It was great.
Yeah.
Sweet. That's what I needed. Anyway, yeah, so to continue answering your question, we'll flip back about how many contracts and things abroad per year. It does vary a lot, and I did actually have less in the diary for this year because I'd planned to go and do an opera course in Italy.
Oh, I heard you say something about Italy on your podcast with Joanna, I think it was. So what was that going to be? Was that like a?
It was wow. It's a dream that I've had for years and years and years and years. Just because I love so many things about Italy and the Italian language and languages in general, I just find fascinating. So I loved the idea. I've got this very dreamlike vision in my head of me with those, you know, those really cute bicycles with the wicker basket on the front. Oh my gosh, I love them. Cycling through my little Italian village with some flowers and Italian pastry in the basket. That would make me so happy. And going on to my singing class and doing my opera singing and stuff, because I have been classically trained and I've studied lots of different like the Joe Still technique, a few different techniques, but I don't think I've quite got into opera as much as I wanted, and I'd really love to understand the Italian language a little bit more, and to have a bit more knowledge about, well, lots of things with opera really. So I thought the best thing to do would be to go and sign up for a summer school in Italy so that I could really develop my language skills and learn a lot more about opera, sing lots of operatic arias among so many other singers. I just thought it would be the most amazing thing to do. And then record some Italian arias afterwards as singles. I thought that would be a really great thing. So I finally decided that I was gonna not accept cruise contracts during the summer, which was quite scary really, because that's mainly when people tend to go on cruises, is in the summer.
Yeah.
So I was giving up like a big chunk of my work, but I was thinking, no, I've had this dream for years. I need to go and actually let myself achieve that goal. So I guess really it was quite lucky that I didn't have so many in the diary, but it has meant that I haven't been able to go to Italy, obviously, with all the stuff going on. So I feel really sad about that. But then,
can you move that course to like next year? Yes,
I can do. But then, yeah, I guess I could. But then I think because because everything's so up in the air at the moment, I'm probably just going to take whatever contract comes through when it comes through. And if it comes through while I'm supposed to be going in Italy and doing the course, then it won't happen again, which does make me sad. But with everything that's so up in the air, and anyway, really, despite this going on, when you're a self-employed person, somebody offers you work, you take it.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where the next olive branch is coming from, do you? So you just take the work.
Yeah, 100%.
So I don't really know. I like the idea of going and doing it next year maybe, but right now I haven't really made any plans. I think because so many things are up in the air, I've just gone, right, well, let's see what happens now. And then from there really. But so this year I didn't have so many in the diary. Last year I think I did 16, and that was enough for me. I was really happy with that because of all the other stuff going on that I want to do. Recording projects and various things like that, like getting the songs ready for Jamie Lonsdale's album that's just come out, Footprints. Things like that.
I saw that. Really cool.
So I wanted to make sure I had time in the diary to do that and things like that as well.
Do you know, with the Italian, it just came to my mind. So a couple of years ago, I spent about 2 years learning Italian on a course called, but I ended up being conversational, but honestly now I'm like, I can't, but I can't remember most of it. Like some of it comes back when I'm hearing people speak. But it was so easy to do because I used a course called Pimsleur. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I have. I've done that course.
Yes. So I just found that, so there's like lots of different courses, isn't there? So you get like, I can't remember, it's like 1, 2 and 3, and you get to a certain level, or I think you can do about 7 to 8 courses and become basically fluent in speaking. Obviously it's not very helpful for reading or writing, but I kind of did about 5 or 6 of those courses. I loved it. Like every day, just speaking half an hour put aside, doing a bit of, I used to do it on the cross trainer, doing a bit of Italian, and like speaking Italian. It's so good for the soul, speaking another language, isn't it?
Totally.
But yeah, but if you've already done it, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, maybe that would be something good to do, you know, like in this time or whatever, if you had time. But if you've done it, fantastic.
Well, I've done the first bit. I did all the bits that the library had, and I think they only had like the beginner sets.
The beginner, yeah.
But it worked really well. It was a really good method. So I did enjoy that quite a lot. And I think I learned quite well that way as well. Just, I guess it's the musical side of my brain or something.
Exactly, like muscle memory, isn't it? I think I definitely feel like when I'm learning songs or lyrics or anything, I just have to say a song. I just have to say the lyrics like 3 or 4 times, or sing the song 3 times-ish, and then I've got the song locked in my brain pretty much forever, really. And that's kind of how my brain works. It's like very much muscle memory. And so I feel like with the Italian, when you're speaking it, it's just like, oh yeah, it's just muscle memory. So that's, I guess, so easy for people like us who are so used to learning lyrics and songs all the time, that comes quite easily, maybe.
Yeah, I know what you're saying with English songs. I feel like I can pick up an English song really quick. If it's in another language, then I do have to pay a lot more of attention to it.
Do you?
Yeah, I think that's partly because I really want to make sure I get it right. And that stems from, I guess it stems from my Chinese, because I'd learn a Chinese song and then I'd have to sing it for a Chinese audience. And they're going to be the exact people who are going to know if you've messed it up or not.
Wow.
So to make sure you've got it right. So when it comes to songs in Italian or Chinese or any other language for that reason, for that matter, I always look up lots of different versions, sing along to lots of different versions, and then pick the pronunciation that seems to be done the most. And then I know that, wow, I'm more likely to be singing it correctly, if that makes sense.
That's incredible that you sing songs in China. Was this when you were doing the Chinese X Factor, or was this just for your album as well?
No, it started before then. I think the first Chinese song that I sang for a concert was in my first year at uni, because then the Chinese X Factor happened in my second year. And
okay.
And I.
So did you go to uni in China? Sorry to interrupt. Were you in uni in China?
Yeah, for the second year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so for a modern language degree, normally you go in your 3rd year of study, but for Chinese, for some reason, they do it in your 2nd year. And I always kind of thought maybe that was because it was a tonal language, so it's better if you can get to grips with the tones and stuff earlier on. I don't know if that's true or not, it's my speculation. But yeah, I had a year at Sheffield first, and that was the only place in the country where I could study Western classical music with Mandarin Chinese together. So that's where I went to Sheffield, and then on to Nanjing University, which is 2 hours inland from Shanghai. And obviously that was supposed to be for a year, but I won the show at the end of the first semester. So it actually ended up being about 5-6 months that I was out there for, instead of a whole year, because then I came back and things started happening. But yeah, that was some of the best months of my life. It was amazing.
Just incredible. So what was your pull towards learning Mandarin? Like, what was your, were you fascinated with it as a child, or like, how did that?
There was a few things really. I think, well, the main reason was that my grandmother always told me that you must have more than one string to your bow. So I knew that I was going to be a singer. I can't remember ever wanting to do anything else. I knew I was going to be a recording artist and a singer. But my grandma said, look, you've got to have a backup. You've got to have a plan B. So she was a hairdresser and a florist, and my mum's a seamstress and a florist. And so she said, you have to choose something else. And when Chinese was offered, I took my mum's advice then and made the most of that opportunity. So I had those two great bits of advice growing up, was to always have more than one string to your bow and to make the most of every single opportunity available to you, always. So I took Mandarin Chinese, and that was going to be my second string. And I just fell in love with it because it's so interesting and so amazing. So those were probably the first reason. But then the second reason was that my French teacher, who was head of the languages department at my school, he told me that I couldn't learn Spanish when I asked. So he had all the decision-making power. It was only the people who were in the top set for French who were allowed to learn Spanish. I wasn't in the top set for French, but I went to see him and I said, please, will you let me learn Spanish? He said no. Very nice.
Why?
Charming. And so I cried and ran out. And then when Chinese was offered, I was like, fine, well, I'll take that instead then, mean French teacher person.
But possibly the hardest language in the world, isn't it? Fine.
Yeah, no, to make life easy for myself in this.
That is incredible. Wow.
That's the reason why.
I don't know anything about your journey to the China. Obviously I know about the Chinese X Factor, but everything's so kind of closed there that you don't really hear about it as much here. Like, does it just work as normal, like as the X Factors over here work?
Sort of. It was a very similar format. So China's quite good at seeing something that they like and then copying it. So when people say, oh, the Chinese X Factor, they then expect it to be related to Simon Cowell, but it wasn't actually his franchise. So when I came back and I told my mum about what had happened and that kind of thing, she put it in the local newspaper in Gloucester. And it was actually that newspaper that called it the Chinese X Factor. Just because I think it's like that one reference that people understand. So it wasn't actually that franchise. But it was very similar. So you had the panel of judges. There wasn't a live studio audience, but you did have the different heats that you had to go through. The main difference was for the X Factors that you get over here, you get a week to prepare for each live show. Whereas I wasn't quite that lucky. I was live on Chinese television every single night for 3 weeks. And it was the most terrifying and exhausting time of my entire life.
That is amazing.
Oh
my God.
Scary.
What? It sounds terrifying. So if you look back, what do you think your pep talks to yourself? What was your motto, but what was your kind of like driving force? Did you have to pep talk yourself? Were you just like, yeah, I can definitely do this? Or were you anxious about it? Did you kind of doubt yourself, or were you just straight in there like, nah, gonna go for this?
It was more of I've got to go for this, because it was once again coming back to that advice that I got from my mum, where she said, you must make the most of every single opportunity. And I knew that it was quite possibly the biggest, most amazing opportunity I'd ever been offered in my whole life. So I had to make the most of it, and I had to make the most of being there. But you're right, with China, you don't get to hear about these things because they've got their own versions of social media. So Facebook is blocked, like YouTube is blocked, everything's blocked in China. They've got their own versions. So the only people who knew what I was doing back at home were people that I could have a Skype call with. So I'd do all my university work in the morning, then get a taxi to the TV studios, go live on Chinese television. We'd be done at silly o'clock in the morning. I'd come back and Skype my mum so I could tell her what was going on, go to bed for about 4 hours and get up and do it all over again. But that was the only way that the outside world knew what I was doing. So when I got back and it went in the local paper, everybody was like, what? This English girl's done what now? But like, there's no way they could have known beforehand. And I didn't realise it was going to be this whole big thing in the papers, because it was just the life that I'd lived for the past, I came back a week after I'd won, so past month of my life. And when it was in the local paper, I thought, oh, this will be something nice to show the grandkids one day, and didn't realise it was then going to go in all the national papers the day after.
Then you're going to get signed by Decca. Was it Decca?
Yeah. Yeah, Decca.
Amazing.
So that was a pretty crazy time. But oh my gosh, China has given me so many amazing opportunities and so many amazing experiences. So
I think
highly
once all of this,
China. Like, if you fancy learning another language, not just Italian. No, you speak another language, don't you?
just Italian, just a little bit of Italian, and then I learned French and German as well.
Yeah.
But I didn't pick them up as quickly. Italian was just so, I don't know, poetic or just so easy to learn. It just feels so lovely to speak that I found it quite a musical language, I think. So that's why I found it really easy.
Yeah.
Easier than French, because you would have thought French and Italian would be really similar in terms of how kind of musical and nice they are to speak. But yeah, Italian just seems so easy to me. But yeah, you've inspired me. I think I'm going to get my Pimsleur back out and start from the beginning. Doing my cross trainer, learning my Italian. I'll be fluent next time we speak.
That's such a good idea, and it's good to come up with ways of using this time effectively. I mean, Anna Forrest about what you can do in this time, but we ended up coming up with a phrase like the overwhelm fog, or fog of overwhelm, I think we called it, because there's so many things that you could be doing, and there's so many things that people are saying that you should be doing, and you're like, well, what shall I do? Oh, Georgie, are you still there?
Oh yeah, I'm still there. Sorry, my battery goes down so quickly. Does yours? It goes from like 100% to 20 when I'm on these, but anyway, I'm still on 20%.
Okay.
That really resonated with me when you guys were talking. So listening to your podcast when you were talking about the fog, it's just so true. Like, I think I read online, and there was a psychologist, and he was kind of talking about everyone's experience at the moment. And he said everyone will be going through like kind of low level trauma at the moment, because it's such a, anxious, fearful, worried time. Everyone's so worried that everyone will be kind of in this fight or flight, like a little bit of trauma state. And I think that very much brings fog, definitely, to me. Like, I noticed that I'm like, this is really interesting, but when you get well, it's never really happened to me before, but I'm putting it down to kind of being like, maybe like quite low level anxiety and worried, but I definitely am like blanking quite a lot. So I'll just be kind of like doing my own thing, la la la, totally forget why I walked in that room, or talking, totally forget what I'm talking about. It's kind of this like haze that you're in at the moment, where you don't really want to look to the future, because you're not quite sure what the future holds. So it's very hard to drive forward with anything. But it's also very hard to know how to navigate this time and to keep your identity almost, because I guess being a performer and a singer, a lot of what we do, we get our identity from, really. We're kind of, you're like Mary-Jess, singer, songwriter, recording artist, Georgi Mottram, singer, songwriter, all those things. So when you kind of, your identity, your kind of like professional identity has been taken away, it's quite difficult. It's definitely left me feeling not lost, but definitely like this kind of sense that I'm kind of like floating, like I'm not quite sure. It's quite hard to get grounded. It's been a really, really interesting time, but definitely one silver lining about this time is this kind of, apart from all that worry and worrying about my mum, especially like working in the hospital, this kind of time of this gift of time that we've been given to kind of just be present and to just reflect and almost reset. It's quite hard to reset during these times because they are so worrying, but this kind of time to reflect and just kind of listen to the birds, or like step out in my garden and just like feel the grass beneath my feet and just breathe, that kind of stuff. I mean, you're probably like me, I have not done in years. I have not heard the birds, like have not listened to the birds in years and years and years. I've been so caught up in, like type A personality, like must achieve this, pushing this forward, 26 contracts, like 26 long haul flights a year, and so kind of driven, which is good in a way, but just not being present for years. And it's just been like really lovely to just kind of like, as I say, just like listen to the birds, and I'm like, wow, the earth is so beautiful, and I'm totally missing so much by being so in my head and being so focused on, career and this, and actually like now I guess everything's taken away. So it's like, well, it's interesting to reset and find out what matters, and really like God, health and family and being present and just like looking at this like beautiful universe and having that experience, like the human experience. And it's just it's really, really cool, and definitely something that I've been missing.
This has made me really feel grateful for my garden. I feel so sorry for the people who are in flats who don't have gardens that they can get out into, people who have to stay locked in their houses. Oh my gosh, I feel so sorry for them. I don't know how they're coping, because my garden is like a lifeline to me. I've often moved my whole desk set up outside just so I can be in the sun for a bit. It makes me feel so much better. Yeah,
I know, and it's so good for us to be in nature, so good. And I just, as I say, feels like so bad for the people that can't get into nature, or I mean, hopefully they can use their allotted time to, hopefully there is nature around them, you know, if they're like in a really built up area that's really hard, their experience of this lockdown will be so different, because it does just ground you, doesn't it? It does just make you feel so much better just being in nature and like seeing the sun and like having grass beneath your feet, you know. So I do really feel bad for the people that can't have that.
I really resonate with what you were saying about having that personality where you're like, right, what can I do now? What's next? What am I focusing on next? And I am finding that difficult to let go of. So I have had a few days where I've been in the overwhelm fog and been quite worried about stuff, and I haven't achieved as much as I wanted. And I've been trying to learn to have that forgiveness of myself, because sometimes you can't be on top form all the time, especially not during such and certain times like this, where you're like, what am I going to do? So I have had to try and learn to be more forgiving of myself. But somehow I always manage to make myself too busy no matter what's going on. So
same.
I signed up for an online marketing course, and I've been really trying to focus on that, and it's worked out really well that I signed up when I did, considering all the other stuff's going on, because I would have had a few cruise contracts during the time, and it would have made it impossible to keep up with the coursework. So, you know, I'm trying to look for silver linings like that through all of this.
That's so productive, Mary-Jess, like more productive than that is so productive. And I think, like, as you say, like being this kind of type A personality and a freelance performer, we're so used to not having, because we kind of don't have any work and we have to make our own work, and we are kind of our own product. It's 24/7, isn't it? You are consistently, if you're not like practicing and performing or gigging or doing something or writing emails and knocking on people's doors, you're then going, oh God, well, social media, I kind of need to be present on here. And then you're on social, it's kind of could be never ending. So I think this kind of time, although it's really hard for us to stop, because I guess for me, definitely, I feel like I'm failing if I stop, and if I'm not achieving something in the day and working really hard towards something, I feel like I'm failing. But that's what I'm kind of learning at the moment, to be like, actually the time that you can just, you know, I think the fog that comes into your brain is happening for a reason. It's happening because it's like, do you know what, really worrying times, I just need you to just like be present and just not do anything. I just need you to relax and just, you know, center yourself and not do anything, because you don't need to do anything. And I think this time for us as well, when usually we are so busy, like, as I say, like last year and the year before, doing, you know, 26 contracts away, but not just that, like shows in London, shows myself, recording albums, you know, constantly, having this time to just kind of like reset. And even if we're not doing anything, I think that our brains will slowly be kind of like almost like resting, and then when we're ready to, we'll be like uber creative, because you don't want to, at the end of this lockdown, be burnt out. You know, you don't want to have it having been like, oh, I'm suddenly in this rat race and everyone's online and I need to be posting online content, and you know, all of a sudden you're in this rat race. Why? Nothing's happening. Like, you might as well just like do what is right for you and don't get burnt out, because when this is over and, you know, people are wanting art and music and everything, we're going to have to be uber creative, and we're going to have to be ready for that time when people want to see live things again, and when people can have mass gatherings and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's difficult to navigate, because I think you do get swooped up in the like the social media, oh God, everyone's doing like online things and everyone's like doing all this content, and I should be doing a concert in my living room, but oh God, it's just like, I think just well, for me, I'm just like taking myself off it. I'm just doing what feels right and what resonates with me, and just don't push yourself during this time, because it is a worrying time. And as I say, like that psychologist that said, it's kind of like low-key traumatic for everyone. We just need to be so kind to ourselves and just do what feels right every day. So if you want to like eat chocolate and cake, just do it. Do you know what I mean?
Great. Georgie says I can. So I can eat chocolate cake all day long.
And when we're in London, we'll go to and have the sweet potato chocolate brownie, and your life will be forever changed.
I am
but
so
yeah,
looking
gotta
forward
be
to
kind.
that. I am so looking forward to that. Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Yeah, no, I would look forward to that a lot. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I'm so happy that you could come and join, and I'm totally going to take you up on that offer to go and get that sweet potato brownie, because that sounds amazing.
100%. Because we tried to have a coffee, didn't we, like months ago? But I think I would have been in, I don't know, South America, and I wasn't in the country or whatever. But yeah, that would be so lovely.
Okay, that'll give me something to look forward to when we're out of lockdown. That'll be amazing.
All right, thanks so much, Mary-Jess.
Well, thank you, Georgie. Bye. Bye.